We're all excited for the next Elder Scrolls game, right? I mean, after Fallout 76, I would say I'm more cautiously optimistic, but still excited. So I thought I would compile the 10 things that I would most like to see in the next Elder Scrolls game. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the setting of the game, where it takes place. The rumor is it's either Hammerfell or High Rock. Now, I want to talk about why High Rock would be the better place. It's, well, in my personal opinion, it's simply because it's a more interesting setting. In Hammerfell, there are two royal families. I don't remember the name off the top of my head, so fuck it. Um, while High Rock is split between many rival kingdoms, and of course the Empire is it's part of the Empire, so that could also be a faction. Um, although to be fair, if you want to continue the Thalmor plotline, it would probably be best to take it to Hammerfell. Now, this is kind of just a broad point, but the main story in Skyrim is fucking awful. So if they could, you know, make it better, I think that would be pretty nice. Some points I want to, have in the main storyline would be to wrap up the Thalmor. Um, also want to know what happened to the Dragonborn and the dragons, because even after you defeat Alduin, they're still flying around Skyrim, which is kind of weird, but they could explain it. And I want to know what happened to the blades, because they're just kind of left there to, yeah. Now, the third point is kind of a continuation of the second point. I feel like the story should branch more. In Skyrim, it's too linear for an RPG, in my personal opinion. Something like The Witcher or maybe the Mass Effect games are a good example of how to do a branching story. It doesn't have to have a great difference, but different characters could die or live. Kings could be deposed if it takes place in High Rock, and guilds could rise or fall, or other factions. It's just, I like the idea. Point 4. I would like a more varied weapon sandbox. It's too dull in Skyrim. It's bare bones. It's basically boils down to sword, axe, and mace, and bigger sword, bigger axe, and a large hammer. Of course, there are ranged weapons, which boil down to bow and a crossbow. You could maybe add like throwing knives or spears. They were quite absent. And maybe make hand-to-hand combat more viable. Maybe it could like affect the branching storyline thing, where if you don't kill this person, but instead knock them out, it could have an effect on the story. Now, the dungeon design in Skyrim gets so boring after a while. It's the same dungeon pasted over and over and over again. I would rather have fewer, more uniquely designed dungeons than these many samey dungeons. The same with the quests, or the side quests. It's practically the same quest. Go over here, kill that guy, get back, get paid. Way too little. And, or go over here, pick that up, bring it back. It's the same. I would rather have fewer, more varied quest lines than these many dull, samey quest lines. Numero, whatever the fuck 6 is in Spanish again. The cities are dull. Fuck them. Whiterun is supposed to be a major trade hub and it has like 20 people and a sheep. So maybe take the route of The Witcher, just have a bunch of unnamed NPCs that roam the streets. Could be done, and it was only like 2 years after Skyrim was released, so I wonder what they could do now. Number 7. I would like to see who won the Civil War in Skyrim. While I personally am an Imperial, I would like to see a compromise, like on this map. Just thought it would be cool to have both factions be a part of the lore, so I think this is the best compromise. Or this. Number 8, and the most important point in my opinion, the Civil War questline, or just a war questline overall. Now, I actually like the Civil War questline in Skyrim, I just hate how cut down it was. It had great potential, but it was basically just a go there, fight these guys. Yeah. So I thought that maybe in the next game it would be cool to have a more complex war, like their idea for the Civil War questline just implemented in the next game. Like, no total war level of tactics, but just like decide where to attack. A more complex war, like in Skyrim, is just two factions. It's okay to have a war like that, but especially if you're going high rock, then you need to have a multi-layered war. Also, it's kind of ridiculous how the armies of Skyrim have same level of strength. Like the Imperial Legion could ruffle stomp the fucking Stormcloaks if they really wanted to. You might say that the Imperial army is stuck at the border with the Thalmor, but one, that's a bullshit cop-out, and two, they could spare a legion to crush a relatively small rebellion. I think High Rock makes a perfect place for a war questline. Like I mentioned before, it's many petty kingdoms, and the Imperial Legion could also be a faction. Even a second Great War, I think that would be really cool to see in a game. Although that would definitely work better in Hammerfell, since they kind of won the Great War, even though the Thalmor won against the Empire, but they kept on fighting and pushed them out. So yeah, a bigger and more complex Civil War storyline. Number 9. I would like to see rival guilds. Guilds in Skyrim don't interact as much as I'd like. It's besides some overlapping between the Dark Brotherhood and Thieves Guilds, it's basically nada. Doesn't have to be guilds specializing in different things, like maybe a rival Thieves or Assassins guilds would be pretty cool. Number 10. You have a greater effect on the world. Now, me and my friend were actually talking about this, and I totally agree with them. You have such a little effect on the world. Here are some examples from Skyrim of how you basically have no effect on the world. After you either beat the Emperor Stormcloaks, people still act like the war is still in a full swing. Yes, you could argue that it turned into a guerrilla war, but one, that's a bullshit cop-out, and two, people wouldn't talk about it the same way. And even after saving the fucking world, Nassim will still act superior to you. And your rank in either army means nothing. So maybe to fix that point especially, you could, when you become a legate or an officer, or even wear a uniform, troops and civilians will still treat you different. This could be fixed with an infamy or fame system. So either you're really famous and everybody knows who you are, you're the hero of High Rock or Hammerfell, hopefully High Rock, and or you could be a total dickhead. You could be a mass murderer. You could be the leader of the Assassin's Guild, the Dark Brotherhood, sorry, and people would just fucking hate you but fear you. You should also be able to take a route where you just save the world from the shadows. Nobody knows who you are really. You just kind of do, and people kind of like recognize your deeds, but they don't know who you are. Now, that very same friend mentioned a really good point, and after he mentioned I just can't play Skyrim. Now, the game is made in 2011. Guns were invented in the early 2000s. So why the fuck can I not commit a mass shooting in Whiterun?